Episode 15, The Dead Man's Hands. Hearing this, Tuwak moved his lips and asked softly, "What do you mean?" Mr. Sam replied, even though I didn't want to believe it. When the soldiers opened the coffin lid, everyone present at Mr. Kuwak's house that night was terrified. Even Mr. Sam could not understand it. How a dead man, sealed inside a coffin since the previous afternoon, could have done what the soldiers discovered. The nails had been driven in. The lid had been fastened. Yet, Tuwak listened in silence, the sound of crackling firewood filling the stillness between them. Everyone stay back. There are a few things that need to be clarified first. A soldier's voice rose sharp and commanding at the doorway, holding back Mr. Sam and the others who were pressing forward, craning their necks to see inside. After searching the entire house from front to back and finding nothing, the officer stood before Mr. Kuwak's coffin, his expression slowly shifting. He was likely turning over a possibility that sounded utterly wild, and yet every scrap of evidence pointed back to the wooden platform where Mr. Kuwak's coffin rested. That was the same platform where Mr. Luong used to sit and receive visitors from afar, the ones who came seeking amulets and blessings. The bloody footprints on the floors had been examined. The whole coffin had been inspected. No blood on the outside, the lid still sealed, the nails all intact. It was difficult even to imagine what Mr. Sam and the others were thinking. But if everything was to be made clear, there was only one way forward, because this was no longer merely about the death of Mr. Kuwak. The entire herd of cattle he had raised had been butchered in the night, brutally, completely, and the fear that fact had spread through Luong village was palpable. The officer's decision came with the force of a command. Open the coffin lid. Several young soldiers standing nearby flinched. "Chief, did you say?" I said, "Open the coffin lid." One of them stammered. "Does it really have to be opened?" The officer's voice was iron. "We've come this far. That is what needs to be done. Bring the tools. I'll open it myself." His resolve made Mr. Lamb quietly admire him. In a room where every other person had gone pale with dread, where superstition and terror had crept into even the bravest hearts, this officer stood unmoved. The tools were brought. No one helped. Some stood so far back they were barely visible, because opening the coffin of a dead man was a profound taboo, and the dead man in question was a famous Mochok, a shaman of great and terrible power. Clack, clack, creak, creak. After a long struggle, the lid was at last whirled loose and lifted. The officer wiped the sweat from his brow and looked straight into the coffin. There is no such thing as a dead man coming back to life. All of this is nonsense. Clack. The lid fell away and the coffin was open. At that moment, the officer took several sudden steps backward. His face went white. His mouth opened and closed without producing a sound. His panicked eyes stayed fixed on what lay inside. Well, of course, body was still there, still lying as a corpse should. But his two hands, both of them, were clutching long, sharp knives. The blades and his hands were slicked dark with animal blood. Outside, Mr. Sam and a handful of others from Luong village worked up the nerve to push inside and look. Human curiosity is a stubborn thing. It drives people forward even when their feet want to run. They looked, and then they scattered, some of them crying out as they fled. "A ghost! A ghost! It's him!" As for Mr. Sam, When his eyes found those blood-soaked hands, he crumpled to the floor, his legs giving out beneath him. I told you. Now you've brought yourself a haunting. Ha 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 ha. Back in the present, mister. Sam's story left his listeners both frightened and doubtful. There were too many points that did not add up. Mr. Sam lifted his bottle and drank deeply. Tuak had noticed it by now. Every time Mr. Sam had to revisit the most terrible part of the story, he drank like a man trying to drown something, borrowing the wine to hold his fear at bay. He wiped the drops from his chin and spoke again. I've never seen anything so terrifying in my life. For the past year, people here can barely say the name without shaking their heads. And the soldiers have their own version of events, a version meant for people who weren't there. But I was. I saw it with my own eyes. Tuak was puzzled by the mention of soldiers. What do you mean, the soldiers' version? Master Luong spoke before Mr. Sam could answer. Soldiers are trained to face moral danger. They have given their lives for their beliefs. Ghost stories are not easily accepted by such men. Beyond that, in a place close to the border, the soldiers need the people to remain calm. Fear among the people breeds instability. They would naturally have found another explanation. Mr. Sam looked at Master Luong with wide, startled eyes. He hadn't yet finished his story, and yet the old man had already guessed where it was going. Sam nodded slowly. Exactly right. That's exactly it. The soldiers live and die by the sword. How could a corpse in a coffin truly unsettle them? They were shaken in that first moment. Yes, but only for a moment. The officer composed himself within minutes of seeing it. He looked at Tuak. Do you know what he said? Tuak shook his head. He said all of this was staged, that someone had manufactured the scene to terrorize the people of Mung village. That person, he said, had slaughtered Mr. Kuok's livestock in the night, then pried open the coffin lid, smeared animal blood on the corpse's hands, placed 2 knives in those hands, and arranged bloody footprints on the floor to create the illusion that it was Mr. Kuok's body that it walked and killed. Then the soldiers quickly had the coffin buried. To this day, they have never named who that person supposedly was. That explanation was enough to calm those who had not been there. But me, I cannot explain it the way they did, and I don't try. I know what I know. The one who slaughtered those cattle was Mo Kuach himself, even though he had been dead since the day before. Having said this, Mr. Sam fell silent. There was nothing more to tell. He slumped against the pillar of the house, clutching his wine bottle and drinking alone. Tuok looked at Master Luong and asked quietly, "Do you believe what he's told us?" Master Luong replied, "The story comes from a drunk man. Bear that in mind when you weigh it." And yet, Mo Chuk suddenly losing his mind and taking his own life. And the timing of it, right at the moment your group was captured and brought to that village. Does that seem like coincidence to you? The people here say Mo Kuok died from wormwood poisoning, but I believe the true cause lies somewhere deeper, somewhere inside the mist village. Tuok stiffened. You mean that Mo Kuok's death is connected to Mr. Chok? Master Luong was quiet for a moment before answering. If Mr. Sam's story of a dead man rising is true, then yes, it is entirely possible. I have said before that Mo Chok is the most loathsome kind of shaman. In addition to killing those who serve his purposes, he also takes pleasure in sowing panic wherever he reaches. I cannot say with certainty how he killed Mokuak, or by what means, but the terror that Mokuak's death left behind in the hearts of the people here. Looking at Mr. Sam, I think you understand. Early the next morning, Master Luong and Tuak packed their things and prepared to continue on their way. Tuak glanced toward the slumped shape of Mr. Sam, still dead to the world. Mr. Sam is deeply asleep. Should we wake him, Master? Master Luong shook his head. He took out some money, placed it gently into Mr. Sam's open palm, and replied, "No, let him sleep. Let's go." They stepped outside into a sky still gray and overcast, the ground slick and treacherous underfoot. Tuak hesitated. Should we stay one more day and wait for the road to dry? Master Luong said, "What if it keeps raining today and tomorrow and the day after? We came here to find Mokuak. He is dead. There is no reason to remain. Don't forget, you still have things to do. And the longer you delay, the smaller your hope becomes." Tuak understood. He bowed his head and agreed. "You're right. I'm sorry, Master. Let's go. From here is another 3 days of travel through Shimbak, and the road is slippery. Please walk carefully." They left Mung village behind, carrying only the grim news of Mokuak's strange and sudden end. The next destination was the wild mountain territory known as Zimbak, a place that existed in legend as much as on any map, because those who returned from it did so either mad or barely alive. It was the place where human greed took the form of gold, and where that gold opened the door to death. Both men knew this. Both men pressed on. Meanwhile, at old Zhong's house, Bao had been awake since dawn, bent over a spread of drawings and handwritten notes. Old Zhang set a pot of rice on the stove, then drifted closer to see what kept the young man so absorbed. Bao was so focused that even when old Zhang stood directly beside him, he did not notice. It was only when Bao paused to stare into space that old Zhang spoke. "What is all that?" "It looks like a map," Bao replied. "It is a topographic map of the deep forest, drawn from the areas I've managed to explore these past several days. The red markers are the places I've passed through, cross-referenced against the survey maps I've collected from various sources, and I've found something strange." Old Zhang continued. "What kind of strange?" Bao replied. "I compared 3 different maps of the same terrain against the map I drew myself. The locations don't match, not on any of the 4. It's as though the places I've marked shift position each time I visit them, as if the land itself moves. I can't explain it. The deeper you go into that forest, the easier it is to lose all sense of direction, because nothing holds to any rule. Everything familiar becomes, unreliable." Old Zhang didn't fully understand the technical details, but what Bo described was not entirely new to him. Since ancient times, the mysteries of the mountains and forests around Shimbak had resisted every explanation. That was precisely why only those with no care for their own lives, men blinded by the hunger for gold, dared venture in. The people of the village set their own boundary at the edge of the trees, and not even the most seasoned among them crossed it willingly. And yet, this young man, who had first arrived looking scholarly and soft, had gone so far and come back. For old Zhen, that was nothing short of a miracle. There had been nights when old Zhang lay awake, staring at the dark ceiling, waiting. But then, just before dawn, that tired smile would return, eyes bright, body exhausted, but unbroken. The change in Bao over the past year was stark, The pale, neat-featured young geologist old Zheng had first met was gone. His skin had darkened and toughened. His once trim hair had grown long enough to be tied back with a rubber band. A showy beard covered his jaw. His arms and legs were corded with a lean muscle. He looked less like a researcher now and more like a man who belonged to the forest. Old Zhang laughed. "Ah, you're starting to look like a proper jungle man. When was the last time you cut your hair?" Bao thought for a moment, muttering to himself. "I don't remember. I think only once, since I arrived. Is it really that bad?" "Not bad at all. Just different from the person I met on the first day. You probably don't notice the changes yourself anymore. Well, enough sitting and thinking. You need to eat, or you won't have the strength to go back out there. I've made something decent today. Come and eat, and pour some wine. We'll drink together. You can tell me what you found deeper inside the forest. Oh, and please shave that beard first." Bao folded the map and touched his face. The beard had indeed grown too thick. In recent days, chasing down each new clue about the legend of the Mist Village, he had forgotten to sleep, let alone groom himself. But the village's location still eluded him. Still, he was not discouraged. He looked at his reflection in the surface of the water pail and murmured to himself, "When I find you, will you still recognize me? Are you still waiting, Swan?" Far away, on the road between Mung village and Jimbak, Tuak stopped at a high point and pointed ahead. "That's the edge of Bak Yen district in front of us. But Zimbak is still a journey from here. It's a remote mountain, almost completely cut off from the surrounding areas, and the terrain is brutal. I want to push forward, but it's already late afternoon. Should we find somewhere to rest and start again tomorrow morning?" Master Luong wiped the sweat from his brow and nodded. "Your thinking is correct. The trail wraps around the mountain. Forcing on is not the right way." Tuak said, "There should be a house not far ahead. I'll look once we've rested a little and ask if we can stay the night. The people here are poor, but they're kind, honest, and simple, the way our people have always been." Master Luong had long been accustomed to working alone. Having Thuok with him on this journey was, he had to admit, a good thing. The young man was resourceful in ways that smoothed the road considerably. Thuok had spent time following Luong's group in the forest, searching for gold, and that experience showed. In places where money meant nothing, Thuok always found another way. In places where strangers were regarded with suspicion, Thuok always found the right words. The road was long and hard. Having someone to speak to made it lighter. Further on, Thuok found a house and asked to spend the night. Just as he had said, the family welcomed them with warmth and even tried to give up their sleeping space for Master Luong because the old man's age was plain to see. But looking at the small, crowded home, Master Luong asked Thuok to arrange for them to sleep in the buffalo pen at the back. It was empty, no buffalo, but it was dry. The family agreed at once. That night, Thuok borrowed the family's kitchen and cooked with what they had brought with them. After eating, both men sailed into the pen. It was still early. Thuok asked, "When we reach the village, what will you do there?" Master Luong smiled. "My purpose in going is to help the soul of the girl whose necklace you carry find its way free." Thuok shook his head slowly. "You make no sense to me. Risking your life, enduring all this, To keep a promise to someone you've never even met. Master Luong replied, even in death, her soul tried to save his life. That alone is reason enough. Beyond that, I believe the reason she has not been able to leave this world is because she is still bound to something, still bound by her blood. While you were lost in your madness, I heard her cries, plaintive and unrelenting. She always called for her child. You also dreamed of a woman's voice at Mr. Mung's house, a voice inside your own head telling you to save her child. Tuox sat up straighter. But if she had a child, and she is dead, would the child still be alive? Master Luong was quiet for a while. Then he said softly, I cannot be certain, but a mother's love is the most sacred thing in this world. For that girl to cling to this earth, still crying out for her child after death, it tells me the child is still alive. Just as you still believe your friend is alive somewhere. And I have an old hatred for witch doctors who treat other people's lives as worthless. Mo Chok will pay for what he has done. 2 days later, after overcoming road after road of crumbling paths and sheer rock faces that dropped into nothing below, Master Luong and Tuok finally arrived in the territory of Shimbak. The road had narrowed to little more than a goat track clinging to the sides of mountains. Tuok stopped and pointed ahead to where the vast forest and towering peaks met the cloud line. Isn't it magnificent, Master? Do you see that highest peak there? Master Luong studied the horizon. Extraordinary wilderness. That mountain is always wrapped in white fog like that? Tuok nodded. That is Yu Bo Peak. The fog never lifts. It covers that place all year round. It is also where we need to go. This is the second time I've stood here looking at it. The first time, something inside me called out for exploration, for the thrill of what lay ahead. But now, looking at that fog, I shiver. That is the deadly fog. Master Luong understood Tuok's feeling. Returning to the place that had nearly killed him was not something anyone did lightly. Tuok had fought himself to reach this decision, setting aside fear with a stubborn act of will. Facing the thing that haunts you is the fastest way to be free of it, but also the most dangerous. Master Luong looked at Tuok's backpack, noticeably lighter after many days of travel. The food they had brought was nearly used up. The higher they climbed into the mountains, the more sparsely inhabited the world became. The previous night, they had slept on the roadside because they could find no house to take them in. Master Luong said, if we're going into the forest, we'll need to bring provisions. But this place seems abandoned. Is there truly no one living here? Tuok smiled. That's exactly why you need me along. Master Luong raised an eyebrow. You planned for this? Tuok nodded. Of course. It's also why I didn't buy extra food when we passed through that town 2 days ago. Carrying too much weight on a road like this invites disaster. But this area being desolate doesn't mean it's empty. There's a small village tucked into a valley not far from here. I know it from last time. I didn't know of it when my group first came through, so we always had to make terrible long journeys back for supplies. We stumbled onto that village by accident when Luong and I lost our way trying to go back. You'll see, the mountains here are desolate, but a few valleys are sheltered enough to sustain life. The people there grow rice, keep poultry and cattle. We can buy everything we need. Master Luong replied, I'm glad you thought it through, but I also want to stop there for another reason. A village at the edge of this forest. The people there might know something about the Mist Village. I want to learn what I can before we enter. Tuak, you have been assuming I would simply march in without preparation. That is not my way. Tuak blinked. He had indeed assumed exactly that. He bowed his head, slightly embarrassed, and agreed. Then we'll do as you say, master. But from what I remember, the people there are wary of strangers. I don't know if anyone will let us stay the night. His prediction proved accurate. When Tuak asked to buy food, the villagers sold it readily enough. When he asked to sleep over, even offering payment, they refused, every house, without ever explaining why. Eventually, as the afternoon bled into evening, Tuak and Master Luong still had not found a place to rest. Master Luong sighed. Well, let's find somewhere along the road and make do. Tuak agreed, and they began scanning for a suitable spot. He was not watching where he was going, and walked squarely into a person coming from the opposite direction. Sorry, I wasn't looking. A deep, unhurried voice answered. It's nothing. The man Tuak had collided with was old Zane, a man past 60, but built like the roots of an old tree, solid and unyielding. The impact had been like walking into a wall. What struck Tuak even more was the man's hair, black, extraordinarily long and dense, coiled in a thick bun that wound down around his neck. Looking at old Jen, Tuak had a peculiar sensation of familiarity. Something about this man rang a distant bell, though he couldn't place it. Old Zhang looked the two strangers up and down. You're not from here. Are you looking for something? Or trying to get somewhere? Master Luong smiled slightly and replied, We won't deceive you. We arrived this afternoon and have been unable to find a place to rest for the night. We're strangers here, and it seems that's a problem. Suddenly, Tuak's eyes went wide. I remember now. I remember. You're the mushroom seller. The mushroom seller. That's you? I knew I recognized you. Old Zhang looked puzzled. Mushroom seller? Who are you? Tuak laughed. We only met once, so I don't expect you to remember me. About 2 years ago, I came through here to buy food before heading into the forest, and I bought mushrooms from you. Old Zhang genuinely could not place Tuak, but Tuak was different. One of the things Master Luong had quietly noted about the young man, over the many days they had traveled together, was the sharpness of his memory. Even having passed through a place only once, Tuak could recall it with startling precision. And a person like old Zhang, that extraordinary build, that coil of black hair, was the kind of figure who lodged permanently in the mind after a single meeting. But memory works differently in reverse. After a moment of searching, what came back to old Zhang was not Tuak's face, but the face of the man who had been with him nearly 2 years ago, buying mushrooms. At that time, you were with someone else, dark-skinned, sharp eyes, long, curly hair. Yes? Tuak nodded eagerly. That was a Luong, exactly. Old Jing laughed. Ha ha, now I remember. That man, he could identify every type of mushroom at a glance, not just the names, but how long each had grown, and what each one was used for. A remarkable person. So you're his companion? Tuak replied. That's right. Luong was the best man in the forest I've ever known. He understood trees and mountains the way most people understand the streets of their own village. I didn't expect to see you again after all this time. Old Zhang's brow furrowed. Wait, you said nearly 2 years ago you were buying food to go into the forest. I had my suspicions even then. I thought the two of you were gold seekers. Was I right? Tuok bowed his head slightly. Yes, and you gave up and turned back. Old Zhang looked at him steadily. A silence settled. Then Tuok clasped his hands together, his voice not quite steady. My group and Luong all died. I was the only one lucky enough to escape. The words seemed to stun old Zhang. It was growing dark, and standing in the middle of the road was not the right place for a conversation like this. Something in Tuok's words also connected, faintly but unmistakably, to what Bao was doing. Old Zhang made up his mind. It's almost dark. Meeting like this must mean something. Would you two agree to come to my house for the night? It's not large, but there's room to sleep. Master Luong bowed his head in gratitude. If you will have us, there's nothing better. We're grateful for the trouble. Old Shong smiled. My name is Shong. Everyone here calls me Old Shong. Follow me. This is going to be interesting. Tuok asked. Interesting how? You'll see when we get there. I have things I want to hear from you too. Master Wong responded. As it happens, we also have a few things to ask you. Following old Jing up the hill to a solidly built wooden house set apart from the rest of the village. They passed through a bamboo gate and into the yard. Old Zheng pointed to the back. The water jar is out there. Go wash up and sit down. You must both be hungry. Let me cook. Tuok waved his hands. Please, we can't impose further. Old Zheng dismissed him. Don't be polite. You're the guests. Our people here don't turn guests away hungry. The others in the village refuse to let you stay because they think gold seekers bring death into a house, that their ghosts come back to take revenge after they die in the forest. Master Luong said, and you're not afraid of that? Old Zhen laughed. I've lived this long. Am I going to be frightened by ghosts now? Besides, looking at the two of you, I can see you're not gold seekers. No man over 50 goes into the forest looking for gold. Am I right? Master Luong smiled. He's not only in excellent health, he's perceptive. I can hardly believe he's 60. Old Xing paused, suddenly realizing something. I don't know your names. Master Luong replied. My name is Luong. I'm a gravedigger. This young man is Tuok. As he said, we haven't come looking for gold, but we're hoping to find a village somewhere inside the untouched forest at the summit of Wubo Peak in the fog that never lifts. Do you know anything about the Mist Village? Old Zeng stopped dead still. He had been pulling vegetables from a basket. His hands paused. For just a moment, something crossed his face, quickly composed and hidden. He replied, so my feeling when I first saw you two was right. But don't rush yet. Let's eat together first. I said this was going to be interesting. The exchange between the two old men was guarded, deliberate, and not lost on Tuok. While washing his face at the back of the house, he leaned close to Master Luong's ear. Is old Zheng a trustworthy person, Master? Something about him feels odd. Master Luong replied quietly, he's not a bad man. As for being odd, we are the odd ones here. He probably thinks the same of us, but there's one thing I'm certain of. Old Zhong is hiding something. He doesn't live here alone. Tuok looked around at the empty yard, but there is only him and us here. He said so himself. Master Luong shook his head. Don't worry, you'll see soon enough. It seems We may have found exactly the right person after all. Dinner. Come, sit down. No need to be shy. Drink some of this. I've got corn wine. Wild chicken grilled in bamboo. Eaten with corn wine. There's nothing better in the world. Old Jean rose to fetch the wine. On the banana leaves spread across the floor, pieces of freshly cooked chicken steamed in fragrant white smoke tipped out from 2 bamboo tubes. Alongside them were a bowl of wild vegetable soup and a plate of fresh picked leaves, sour greens, bamboo shoots, mountain herbs. Old Jean returned with a bottle of corn wine and settled himself down. His height, even seated, was remarkable. Every time he moved, Tuak half expected the floor to tremble beneath him. He still couldn't quite reconcile the man's vitality with his age. Old Jean lifted his cup, and emptied it in one long swallow, then laughed. Ha 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 ha. It's been a long time since I've had this much company. Eat while it's still hot. We'll talk while we eat. Without preamble, Old Jean's first question got straight to the point. You said you didn't come here to look for gold. So, what did you come for? Master Luong glanced at Tuak and nodded, giving him leave to speak. Tuak replied, It's a long story, but it all begins with me. As you know, nearly 2 years ago, 6 of us went into the forest to search for gold. I was the only one who came out alive. I want to go back in and look for my friends. Old Jean smiled, though it held no warmth. You're joking? That doesn't hold together. If you made it out alive, then others could too. And why did you wait until now? If your friends couldn't escape, they're probably dead by now. Why go looking? He leaned forward slightly. Besides, gold diggers' stories are well known around here. No one takes them at face value. Seeing Tuak falter, Master Luong said, Let me address each question. The reason Tuak is only returning now is that after he escaped the forest, he went mad. He lost over a year of his life, wandering in a state of complete derangement. I was the one who brought him back. As for his friends, yes, it is possible they are all dead. Tuak saw several of them die with his own eyes, but there were 2 others whose fate he did not witness. He holds on to the hope that they survived. Master Luong paused. And the reason for that hope, Tuak and his companions were not killed by the force. They were captured by a group of people living deep inside it. People from a place called the Mist Village. Old Jane had just begun to pour wine. His hand stopped. The wine kept flowing, spilling over the edge of the cup. He swallowed and asked, The Mist Village? Are you telling me this young man actually set foot there? Tuak said firmly, I swear it. My friends and I were brought to the Mist Village. That is where most of them were killed. 2 others. I don't know whether they're alive or dead. That's why I want to go back. Old Jane stared into Tuok's eyes for a long moment. The fear in Tuok's face was real, raw and unperformed, the kind that doesn't come from a man weaving a story. Still, Old Jean had heard legends about the Mist Village his whole life, and skepticism ran deep. Since ancient times, the Mist Village has been nothing but a legend. People believe in it because they want to believe in the gold. I accept that you went into that forest and survived. That much I believe. But setting foot in the Mist Village itself. He shook his head. Furthermore, the 2 of you together, one old man, one young man, are you planning to walk in there and die? Master Luong replied, Before we say anything more, what exactly is the Mist Village? in your understanding. Old Jean exhaled slowly. I grew up hearing the stories from my father, who heard them from his own father. Somewhere in the forest at the foot of Mount Ubo, there's a village whose location cannot be fixed. They say that if you find it, you will become rich. Gold everywhere, lying on the ground, embedded in rocks, glittering in the stream beds. But alongside the gold come stories that chill the blood. Those who searched for gold almost all died. There were survivors, but not one of them came back sane. Some were completely mad. Some no longer knew who they were. What they described was always the same: a mystical village, gold beyond counting, and beautiful women who lived there. And their words, broken, wandering as they were, had a strange pull to them, a seduction in the telling, so that others who heard them began to dream of changing their lives and walked into the forest and didn't come back. Gold seeking has always been the road to hell in this place. As for whether the village truly exists, it remains what it has always been, a legend. Tuak clenched his fist and said, I swear on my life that it is real. Everything you just described is real. There's gold there. We found it ourselves, a whole seam of it in the rocks, lumps of it glinting in the gravel of the stream. But that village is not inhabited by people. It is inhabited by demons wearing the shapes of people, remembering my friends dying at their hands. Even now, I can't keep from shaking. Old Jung studied Tuak for a long time. The tremor in the young man's voice, the genuine terror in his eyes, these were not the marks of a liar. In the past, Old Jung would have dismissed the whole thing, but something had been changing in him gradually, as certain details of Tuak's account began to echo things he had heard from Bao. The gold found in a stream bed, for instance. Bao had found gold in exactly the same way. Old Zing filed that way and said abruptly, That's what I know, but talking about life and death over food isn't the right thing to do. The two of you look exhausted, and it wasn't easy to get here. Eat, then rest early. There's more to say in the morning. Master Luong recognized the deliberate change of subject, but said nothing and let it pass. After eating, Old Jean cleared a corner of the house for his two guests, warm, full of food, lying beside a proper fire for the first time in days, after sleeping in a buffalo pen on roadsides in strange, cramped guest houses. Tuak sighed with poor relief and said, Old Deng really is a good man. I noticed there's no one else here, just him. That's a shame, actually. What he knew about the Mist Village was nothing we didn't already know. Anyway, when do we leave? Master Luong replied, For now, just wait and see. Old Zeng was right. With only the two of us, going into that forest is the same as committing suicide. Before we depart, we need to learn more carefully. Goo, goo, goo. Tuak was already snoring. Master Luong shook his head and smiled, and gently pulled the thin blanket up to cover the sleeping young man. In the past, Master Luong had always worked alone, had always moved through the world without attachment, and had more than once placed himself in harm's way without caring whether he survived. But this trip was different. He told himself his own life did not matter, but the life of the person traveling with him was another matter entirely. He had no real choice but to let Tuak come. Without him, getting this far would have been nearly impossible, let alone finding the Mist Village. And beyond that, Master Luong hoped that this journey might, at last, untangle the web of guilt and grief an unresolved terror that had wound itself so tightly around Tuok's heart. Because no one understood better than Master Luong what it was to carry that weight, and what would happen if Tuok never faced it. A while later, old Jung opened the door and came quietly inside. Hearing Tuok's snores, he assumed both men were asleep. He found what he had come for and went back out, easing the door shut behind him. In the moonlit yard, he sat alone, working with his hands. A small bamboo tube, half the width of his wrist, that he rubbed with chicken fat and packed at one end with a dark substance, then lit. A distinctive, unfamiliar fragrance curled through the air, drifting in through the cracks in the wall. Inside, Master Luong's eyes opened slightly. "Are you waiting too, old Zhang?"